Are you a founder and you're thinking about learning how to code in order to make a software as a service business? Well, if that's the case, I'm here to tell you, no, you should not learn how to code. But of course, this video and this topic is a bit more complex because the question is, how much should you learn in order to work efficiently with a developer? So I have the opinion of not needing to code as a non-technical co-founder is probably even an asset. And later on, we're also going to go into why that is. Spoiler alert. It has something to do with this graph where your business benefit actually goes down the more you learn how to code. On the other hand, if you don't know anything about technology, then it's going to be also very hard to work with a developer and also to convince them to work for you. This video is about finding the middle ground, having a clear roadmap of what you should learn in order to be confident working with a developer and also when you should stop. And in the end of the video, I'm also going to tell you why you should stop and what's the better thing to do instead. And in this video, I'm going to show you this document that contains the complete roadmap, and you can find this directly in the YouTube description to copy for yourself and start learning. So let's get started. The simple answer is, should you learn how to code? The answer is no, but. So let's get this out of the way and look into what's actually important to learn in order to work with a developer. What are the minimal things any software as a service owner should do, either if they're technical or not technical? Let's start with some basic tech literacy. The most important thing, I think, is knowing what is a stack. How is a software built out of different components? The first thing is a stack. And here it's most important to know what is the code that gets executed in the browser and what code gets executed on the server. And also we have mobile apps where also code can run. Knowing this is important because usually changes on the front end are much faster and easier, and changes on the background and in background processes even, these things are usually harder to get done. Here's a quick list of things that you can learn in order to get up to speed with this. What is a tech stack? And all these YouTube videos I handpick myself, and also I put in how much time it takes in order to consume them. So you can see this whole roadmap here will take you maybe a weekend of work watching all these and take some notes. But after that, you're basically prepared to work with any developer working on a software as a service product. Very important is to know what's the difference between front end and back end, so you know what developer to hire. Of course, this field is changing right now because usually we now have only full stack developers, but still you might find some people who are saying, I'm only a front end developer or I'm specialized in back end. And then you know that you maybe need to fill a role for the other side as well. I also really like this video by Theo where he codes the same app in different languages. So you get an idea of what language gets you to the goal fastest. And you can also correlate with how many people you're actually able to hire in your area and what is the best programming language to do so. One last thing to stack. When I talk to non-technical founders and they tell me they need a developer, and then I ask them, what stack are you using? They need to have an answer. And so should you as well. When you start to build your software as a service product, you need to know what is the technology the developer is actually using here. Because anytime you need another developer, you're going to talk with a lot of people, and then you should have an answer right there so people can tell you, okay, this is a stack I know, or this is a stack I don't know. The next thing on our list is database design. And this is technical, of course, and this is also more on the backend side. And also, it will only really be relevant in the beginning. I mean, a database model grows over time for sure, but in the beginning, it is the most important because that's where the foundation gets laid. And I love this blog post here. And this is really a must read for every SaaS founder, technical or non-technical. What he claims is that the way you build up your app is also the way the customers perceive and the customer's going to use that. So Slack was an innovation because everything was grouped into channels. Older chat apps were not able to do that. And that means Slack had now a new paradigm of working, and Slack was able to scale with this much faster because you could plug any kind of integration into these channels. That was just an innovation, and HipChat, for example, couldn't do that because they had a different database model. Being able to reason with your developer about the database model is really an asset. So you should for sure learn database design, and you don't need much. With database design, really the only thing you got to know is how does a database work? How do you look up data? And then what's a foreign key? How do you combine data together? And this video really helps you get there. Then the next point is APIs. APIs are just now everywhere, especially everybody's working with AI, and AI is always APIs because the compute runs on a data center. It usually never runs on your own computer. So all these are APIs. Understanding APIs on the basic level is very important. And you need to understand what's roughly the format that gets sent over. How do you authorize in an API? How do you get the credentials? How can you make sure that nobody can access your API if you provide one? And also the cost. So these are some basics which you can look up here. Another very important thing is versioning. And that is important because developers will sometimes face needing to upgrade their software. So for example, there might be a new version of React coming out, or of Next.js, or Ruby on Rails. And then you should have an idea what if that version is a major version, it will take more time to upgrade, or you have breaking changes, and what do these breaking changes imply? Learning the SEMVer model actually makes a lot of sense. For SEMVer, you can just look at this website. This is basically describing what it does, but it's a bit technical. So I would suggest you just watch this video here. It's just 4 minutes and it's going to explain what semantic version actually means. And that is for sure a good thing to know. And you might even version your Word documents later on with this. The next thing is hosting. Where do you host? Is it in the cloud? How does a server scale? What do you do if you need multiple servers? And how do you deploy software into the cloud? And this is a complicated topic, and ideally your developer explains you more on this, but just get the basics with AWS in 10 minutes and also this one, Cloud Computing Explained. These videos are a good idea to watch. Then we have user roles, and that's something that kind of comes from the database model, but it is also something that you as a non-tech founder need to design. So the developer might have an idea how the user roles should be, but in the end, you really need to know, because you need to explain to your users that they can invite, let's say, a manager. What is a manager able to do in their software? How do you invite other people? How do you make sure someone cannot see things that they shouldn't see? And that's really on the non-technical side, on the definition of the software side. So that's something that you for sure also need to understand, at least on a basic level. And it's not that difficult. There are a couple of things like role-based access control, which you can look up here, and also the differentiation between authorization and authentication. And the last thing I would add as a technical knowledge is Git. Git is the versioning system that every developer now uses to make sure that they can work on a part of the software without breaking another part of the software, and also saving the state of every different work states into one central repository. And yeah, you can learn here Git in 100 seconds. I also want to point you to this week report. This is another YouTube video I have published already, and this is about having a weekly review with the developer and getting some data out of the Git repository in order to have a better conversation with the developer. It looks like this. It would basically give you a couple of bullet points that shows you clues from the code how to talk with the developer about this. And this is really helpful because you don't need to do much. You just need to use Cloud Code. I also want to point you to this week report. This is a tool that I made in order to talk better with the developer every week. And this basically just goes into the Git repository and takes some things out to give you more clues to talk about with the developer. And this is how it looks. And if you go into my gist, so there is this gist that you can here download. Let's click on this right now. You basically throw this thing into Cloud Code. This is what you also see in the other YouTube video. You basically just throw this link, which you see also in the document. If you get this, you throw this link into Cloud Code and you just say, read this file and follow the instructions. And this is only working on Git. So basically it just runs Git and then this nice page comes out. And this really helps you working with the developer, and you don't need to know how to code. You just open Cloud Code. You need to have that set up, yes, and then this comes out. Okay. Great. So this is the foundation. This is everything you should at least know as a non-tech founder. There is a bit more. So we talked about the tech literacy. There's one more topic I want to touch base with. And this is really important for me because I have started with that kind of work just this year, and it had a huge benefit for my work. And I'm now even teaching this to my managers in my SaaS company. And that is vibe coding. So vibe coding basically means you don't need to read the code. You just learn prompting and then you see the results. So with vibe coding, you can, for example, make landing pages. And there are some YouTube videos about this, how to make a landing page with AI, and also Framer. So if you don't have any runtime instance for your landing page, you can just use Framer and learn in this YouTube video. Just one example. This is a page for my venture studio. And I created this in basically 1 hour, just vibe coding it. And I uploaded it and done. This was based on another design that I had already, and I had the content, but just getting this done in such a short time was just a huge benefit. That's why I became a fan of vibe coding. And often I don't even need to look at the code, at least not for the things that are security critical. So making landing pages is great. Of course, you can skip that if you actually know how to make landing pages fast. If you have a tool for that, fine, you don't need to learn this. There is one more thing where vibe coding is very, very important. This should be a must know for developers, but also for any kind of product person. Even if you're doing marketing, you should be able to do something like this. You need to know how to run Cloud Code, like this one, or Google AI Studio. I want to give you some examples here. This is something that a non-technical person made, and I only gave a bit of inputs how to make a UI prototype. So I gave her some kind of hints on how to put a nice design in there and what we should roughly need here and how to do some basic prompting. This was not complicated. By the way, if you want to know how to do that, write a comment or send me an email and I'm happy to make another video about this, how we did this. And also if you dig this content, please subscribe and like this video. It's going to help the algorithm and it's not going to cost you anything. So back to our thing. This was done by a non-technical person. And the real benefit here is that the developer doesn't need to screw up or doesn't need to do something wrong that would then get reverted by the non-technical person. The big benefit is that this is being done without backend. This is just a test basically. It's a mock-up. It's a prototype that can get clicked through. And you see it works really well actually. and everything is defined. So having that, the developer will have a much easier time actually coding the software, because it's much easier to iterate on something that's not coded yet, right? And this is the reason. The developer doesn't need to always synchronize with the product person. So the product person can work on iterations, work on designs without needing no design, and the developer can code and work on the back end. This is really the perfect symbiosis now, because the product person has so much more leverage and the developer has so much more focus. I love this. The Google AI Studio was now the first thing that actually made this happen and actually make this easy. So learn Google AI Studio, create product UI, super important. And then if you want to go one step further, you can create a mini proof of concept. So I would say product UIs is like smaller things, and a proof of concept UI or a demo is basically what you just saw here, where there is actually stuff here. There's actually things you can demonstrate to someone and it actually looks like the real app. So this is a mini proof of concept. Those things you should know, because it's going to make your life so much easier and you have always a basis to talk about with the developer. Now, after this, should you now take this proof of concept or the UI and code a real app from that? Should you make the MVP yourself? And I would say no, you don't want to become a developer. Your job is to do business and not the software. And this is the reason. If you start to learn to code, so there's basically you learn how to code, you learn what code is, you learn the stack, you learn the database model, you learn all these things, and you're basically getting here. What comes after that? If you now want to learn how to code, your business benefit slowly goes down and down and down. Why? Because if you code, you cannot sell. So the marginal benefit goes down. If you could sell any kind of demo or pre-sell the software, anything like that will have a higher benefit. I want to now come back to the graph. This is how I think it actually looks like. If you learn how to code, you have a high business benefit because you're just becoming a better leader. But it goes down slowly because the more you learn, you're not able to apply that because there's a developer. At the same time, you start learning it. It's quite easy to learn it, but then you're hitting this learning curve that just goes steeper and steeper because coding is hard in all the edge cases and you have to learn many more things. So all this is superficial knowledge and that's fine. But once you go deeper, it's going to be much harder to learn. And here on this point, you're hiring a developer anyway. So once the developer takes over, you don't need to code anymore. You just need to talk with the developer. And after that, your time is better spent selling more. And I found this comment on Reddit and it totally rings true. The question is, should a non-technical founder become technical? No, because if your background is marketing and sales, just need to excel at that. Become the best salesperson you can be, and then you will make the developer's time worthwhile because you're going to drive a lot of users into your app and you're both going to win.